When I was a kid, I loved beef jerky. I would beg my parents to get it for me when we'd go to the store. Now, I've done several beef jerky videos on how to make it in the smoker, in the oven, different methods, different flavors. Well, today, I'm gonna show you how to make beef jerky nuggets. Yes, beef jerky nuggets. Now, beef jerky doesn't always just come in those long strips you see. Sometimes they are in little nuggets. That's one of the things I used to get when I was a kid, the little bags that had pieces of beef jerky in it that you would just kind of pop into your mouth like M&Ms. These are gonna be a little bit bigger than M&Ms, but kind of the same idea, a little more snacky than a long strip of beef jerky. So the first thing we want to do is get our marinade ready because we're going to get the beef marinating in it overnight. So we're going to start with half a cup of teriyaki sauce. Just pick your favorite teriyaki sauce that you like to use in teriyaki chicken or beef. Use that. Got a quarter cup of soy sauce. I'm using a low sodium soy sauce. If you want to use a regular soy sauce, no problem, go ahead. And now I'm going to add a quarter cup of Cactus Cooler. Now, I don't know if Cactus Cooler is available in your area. It's an orange pineapple soda. If you can't get that, pick your favorite sort of tropical soda, and that'll work really well with this. Finally, for just a little bit of heat, and you can leave this out if you want, a tablespoon of red pepper flakes. We're gonna mix this up. It already smells terrific. Just wanna take a little taste here. That is perfect. I like that. All right, we're gonna set this aside and we're gonna get our beef ready. So what I'm working with today is not something I normally make beef jerky with, and that's tri-tip. This is a couple pounds of tri-tip that I had cubed up and I froze it. I was gonna use it to make beef stew. And then when I started thawing it out, I thought, I don't wanna make beef stew. I wanna make beef jerky nuggets. So that's what we're gonna use this for. So I just wanna take these pieces and break them down basically kind of into quarters. Break these chunks down. Make them just a little bit smaller. Now, you don't have to use tri-tip for this. You could use steak. You could use top round, which is London broil. That's what I usually use when making beef jerky. You could use eye of round. You could use filet mignon if you want. We're just turning it into some nuggets. And again, I don't make my beef jerky for preservation. I don't add preservatives to it, and it's not gonna last more than a couple days in the refrigerator. So I don't know how long it would last. Some of these are still a little bit frozen from just coming out of the freezer to thaw. And that's good. If you want to have a little bit of an easier cut on these, you could just partially freeze them a bit. The cuts are cleaner with a knife. And every piece does not have to be exact and the same. They're all gonna work out just fine. They're gonna dry, they're gonna get a lot of flavor. In fact, some of them like this, which are kind of thin, I'm just gonna leave this size and thin. Same with this one. This one's not thin, but it's not that big, so we're just gonna leave it like that. And I'm not worried about trimming off any of the extra fat here since I'm not using this for preservation. I'm not gonna try and store it. Fat will go rancid. I've mentioned that in my previous beef jerky videos, so if you are gonna make beef jerky for preservation, you're gonna wanna try and remove the fat and use a leaner cut than tri-tip. There is quite a bit of good fat in tri-tip. So if you're making it like I am for eating right away, go ahead and leave the fat. And you can see that marbling right there inside the tri-tip. That's what I'm talking about, that fat. If you leave that in a piece that you're going to want to preserve, it has a tendency to want to turn rancid unless you're using some sort of preservative or unless you dry it really, really well. And I don't like my beef jerky that dry. I like it to have a little bit of a chew. All right, I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting this up, and then we'll come back and we'll get it in the marinade. All right, we're going to go ahead and get our chunks of tri-tip into our marinade. Get it mixed up good. Remember, marinades are things you can just play around with. If you want to change the flavors up, go for it. Get in here, get everybody mixed up. This is the great thing about beef jerky when you're making it. The marinade has a tendency to really permeate the meat overnight, and that gives you such great flavor. All right, this is ready. It's gonna go in the refrigerator overnight. Tomorrow, I'm gonna use the electric smoker to smoke this using probably some maple wood chips. You could do this in the oven, and all you need to do is follow the directions that are on my easy beef jerky made in the oven video. So, I'll see you tomorrow. All right, our beef jerky nuggets or chunks or whatever we're gonna call them have been marinating overnight in the refrigerator. I just drained them in a wire strainer just to get some of the excess moisture off. If it's really heavy with moisture, I'll go ahead and pat it down with some paper towels, because all that moisture does after that overnight marinade is inhibit the drying once you get it in the smoker or the oven if you're going to be using the oven. And I want to mention this, that I'll put a link to the playlist of all my beef jerky videos down in the video description. I'll also put a link up here. If you want to do this same thing in the oven, just follow the directions for using the oven in the easy beef jerky in the oven video. Many ways you can make this. So let's go ahead and start arranging our chunks on our rack here. And what I have is a grid rack. It's a baking cooling rack that is going to sit on top of the smoker racks, because the normal smoker racks where I would just lay the strips of beef jerky, it's a little too wide between the pieces of metal and some of these would fall through. So this grid is going to hold them just fine. It's also going to allow airflow and smoke to flow through and over these pieces of beef. And I think my dogs know that I'm making beef jerky because they're like playing and sniffing the air over here. And try to get them not too close to each other. If they do touch a little bit to fit everybody, it's not a big deal. They shrink up as you go along in the drying process here. And you can see we have varying sizes here, some small, some large. They're gonna cook at different rates. Some are gonna be done before the others, but we're not gonna take them off individually. They're gonna all go once the last ones are done, that's when they'll be done. So some will be much drier than others, some will be right around the way that I normally do them. Got 2 racks I'm using today, so I'm just trying to get about half on this rack. Then we just take our other rack, lay it right on top of those, and finish the process. I'm gonna go ahead and finish getting these on the rack, and then we'll get these out onto the electric smoker. All right, I have the Charbroil electric set at 225 degrees. That is just an initial temperature to help get the smoke rolling. I'm going with a mixture of maple and hickory today. The wood chip box is maybe about 3/4 full. So let's go ahead and get our jerky nuggets on. All right, our marinated jerky chunks are in there. Let's get this closed and get them smoking. So the temperature that we're going to set in the smoker once the smoke gets rolling is 170 degrees. We're just gonna leave it at that for the rest of the day. This is gonna take somewhere between 4 and 7 hours. These are some pretty sizable chunks in there. And we're not even gonna come back and check this for 4 hours. We're just gonna let it go. So I'll see you back here in about 4 hours. All right, we've been going for 4 hours. The Charbroil electric's been holding pretty good, right around 170, sort of in a 165 to 180 range. Right now we're right at 170, so let's give these beef jerky nuggets a check. Those are looking good, starting to take on that jerky color. So let's just kind of see how we're doing. Let's pull some out and just see how firm they are. Let's see. Those are feeling pretty good there. Let's see, it's a little bit different when you're not using strips, because you're not going to have that ability to test flex, but you can see that there's still a lot of moisture in there. So we're going to keep going here. I'm guessing for at least another hour, so we'll check it at hour 5. I'll see you back here in about an hour. All right, we have actually been going 6 hours. At hour 5, I just did a quick look and I could tell it still needed some more, but it's been 6 hours now, and I have a feeling we're probably, if not done, pretty close to done, so let's give it a look. Oh, there's that jerky look we've got, yeah. Look at that. And you can see there's still a little bit of moisture on them, a little bit of that fat rendering and dripping off. That's how I like the beef jerky. I don't like it super dry. I like there to be a little bit of bite left. Let me just see here how this feels. Yeah, see, it has just a little bit of that glistening fat on the outside there. That's what I want. It's gonna continue to dry. We're gonna let that set inside. But yeah, I can definitely feel that's the way I like it. If you like it drier, you can let it go an hour, 2, 3 hours more. But for these beef jerky nuggets, this is what I want. So we're gonna get these inside and have a taste. All right, here are our finished beef jerky nuggets chunks, bites, whatever we want to call them, with that great teriyaki flavor in them, and a little bit of that orange pineapple soda, that Cactus Cooler. I'm really looking forward to tasting these. You can see I've got some in a jar here, and that's just how I'm going to store them in the refrigerator. Again, I don't make these for preservation. There's no preservatives in here. They're not dried out enough to last long term without refrigeration. These will be gone in a couple days. If you want to do them for longer term preservation, you're going to have to use methods which are designed for that. The total drying time, cooking time out on the smoker here was about 6 hours. And again, this is tri-tip that I used. You could use what I traditionally use, London broiler, eye of round. You could use New York steak, ribeye, anything you want to make nuggets like this. And especially if you're not doing it for preservation, where the fat content is not going to matter because it's not going to turn rancid because you're going to be eating it quickly, use whatever steak you want. So what can I say? It's time to taste. So first I'm going to start with one of the smaller chunks here that's going to be more dried out. Again, there are varying sizes of these nuggets. Some are going to be a lot more juicy, for lack of a better term. Some are going to be much more dried out. So let's try one of the small ones. That was really good. Definitely get a hit of that teriyaki flavor and some more of the sweetness from that orange pineapple soda. Very, very slight amount of heat from those red pepper flakes. They're diluted quite a bit in that marinade, so you're not going to really overpower it, even with a tablespoon. But honestly, like I said, if you don't want any heat in there, leave that out. If you want more heat, put a bunch more in. Now I want to go for one of the bigger pieces. It's almost like a little chunk of steak. Oh, that was good. I gotta tell you, I just really, really like these. They always remind me of my childhood and wanting that beef jerky and getting it as a treat when my parents got it for me, and now being able to make it myself. It just adds to the enjoyment because I can have it anytime I want. So if you want to change up your beef jerky repertoire a little bit and you don't want to just do strips, try making these nuggets, these chunks, whatever you want to call them. Get some steak, cut it up, marinate it, do it in the oven or in the smoker like I did today. You're going to have tasty treats that you can put in the refrigerator, and you'll enjoy them for at least 30 minutes until they're gone.